All right, we're live. What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk. Excuse me, Deck Talk podcast, and we've got an exciting episode today. We've got somebody that's on from my old stomping grounds when I was growing up, and he's been a good friend of ours for I'd say the past 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years. I don't know. Time flies when you're having fun. But guys, if you don't know, I call him Burnett.
That's right, Colin. And I am Norman Lee. But you know what? As always, first things first, we talk about the sponsor for tonight's episode. This episode is brought to you by Firefly Outdoor and Marine, the number one navigational device on the water. What separates Firefly from all the rest? First, we have got to talk about their globe, a high quality, innovative, infrared plastic exclusive to Firefly, reducing glare by over 95%, cutting down eye blindness that you receive with other typical LED lights, giving you the perception as if you are fishing under a full moon. They're offered in a camo, diamond, and flake series, as well as a junior diamond series for smaller applications. Also, check out their all new shore stacker box, making nighttime bait fishing more enjoyable. Plus, their new Tech series and foul and Mizu foul weather bibs and jackets. Be seen with Firefly Outdoor and Marine. Go to www.fireflymarine.com. Don't forget, make sure to use our promo code at checkout Deck Talk 10. Once again, that's fireflymarine.com. Make sure to use our promo code Deck Talk 10. Man, Colin, you are spot on. We just have a true legit hammer on tonight. We are happy to have this man come aboard with us. This is a long time in the making, this show is. But anyway, let's start with introduction because we have a lot to talk about with this man. But anyway, with over 33 years of tournament experience, he won his first Angler of the Year at age 14. He is a multiple tournament winner, capturing several Big Bass Awards, and has 12 championship qualifications under his belt with a highest finish of second. A lure designer and inventor, he started Thunder Rocket Lures, which has become one of the most recognizable bait companies in the East Tennessee area. He is just coming off a 2024 season where he burned up the water on the MPFL Tour, and in 2025, he will be taking his talents to the Bassmasters, where he will be ripping some lips in the opens. Welcome to the show, Mr. Wade Warner.
What's up, brother?
What's going on?
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.
I think you're right. It has been a long time in the making.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it has, and our schedule just hadn't met up because when we were been able to have it, you've had tournaments, you've had deals with the Thunder Rockets and stuff like that with your lure company, and that you had to go do something. And we finally just got it matched up. I think we had this sucker booked I think it was 7 months ago that we were like, hey, this is the time we're going to get it done. So, but we finally was able to get it in, and I'm stoked, man, because I enjoy talking to you about fishing, and I know like when we get on the phone, we'll chit chat for an hour and a half, and then we're like, golly, where's the time gone? but guys, if you don't know, Wade, I want to start off though, Wade, with the Thunder Rockets because you messaged me probably about an hour ago, said, "Hey, let's do a Thunder Rocket giveaway," and so we're going to give away some of your baits, and so how you're going to be able to win these baits, and they are phenomenal baits, and I've used them, Norman's used them, and Wade's used them once or twice, and
Just once or twice.
so we have two questions, and so Wade is going to give away the Thunder bait and which is more. It's like a spinner bait, and then the Thunder rig, and we're going to get into details on that way. But the Thunder rig is like an A rig, guys. It gives a very different profile. Both of them do, and different sounds, different vibrations, and they catch fish. And so, um, but for you to win and get a couple, or to be able to be eligible to win, you have to be the first ones to answer the questions. And the first question is, who is considered the spinnerbait king? And the second one is, what is it, Norman?
Who is the inventor of the first, and that's a key word, the first freshwater A rig?
Yep. So you need to be the first ones to answer that. We actually, I think we got five of this, the spinner or the thunder baits, and then three of the. Sorry, guys, I got the hiccups like crazy. Five or three of the thunder rigs, and so you need to be the first five on the thunder baits and the first three on the thunder rigs. And so, with that being said, wait, I want to go. Let's talk about the Thunder rig because that was the first one that you came out with, and I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I've told you this before. When the first time that I seen that thing, I was like, "What in the world is this?" I was like, "Somebody," and I didn't know you at the time, and I was like, "Somebody." Um, Somebody has just gone on and just put the Jesus fish on this thing. and I'm like, I don't know how that's going to come through water. I don't know what it's going to do. Is it going to scare the fish away? Is it going to catch fish? And so, good buddies of ours, Ryan Gotze, he he was the first one that I knew that had it or that threw it. And he was sending me pictures, and I'm like, "What are you using?" He's like, "Man, I'm using this Thunder rig." And I'm like, "You got to be joking me." And he's showing me pictures with it, like still hooked up. And I'm like, "Nah." And then, then I was like, he finally sent me enough pictures, and I went and got them. And I got a couple of them. And I was like, I was still skeptical, but then I started throwing it, and I was smashing some fish, and the bite on that for me, I picked it up right towards like because we like to throwing it towards like right now during the wintertime. And I bought them towards the end of what we would consider throwing an A rig for solid fish. And the the bite on the A, like the traditional A rig, was kind of dying off, but I was able to probably get another good solid maybe 5 to 7 days longer because of it when I was not really catching them on the other. And I was using the same plastics on both of them. The only thing different was how you got the little Jesus fish. And uh, so, but I want to talk. I want to get into like how you got to uh, your thought pattern on it and the process of how you decided to put that on there, and how it came to for fruition to come to where it is now.
Sure, sure. So cool backstory and bringing the whole Jesus fish to the water. I think all puns intended here. Uh, I was literally following a gentleman down the road one day, and I saw the fishing pole sticking out of the bed of his truck. And I thought, boy, what a great day it would be to be out on the water fishing. And I noticed on the back tailgate of his truck, there it was, the Jesus fish. And it kind of spoke to me. I thought, gosh, if that doesn't represent the OG fisherman himself, you know. So yeah, I started kind of brainstorming ideas, started thinking of the profile and everything else, and pretty soon I got this like 3D idea in my head of the body of it, and then having like the split tail to make it rotate. I started working with the internal components of it, thinking, how can I make this kind of a repetitive revolver that gives continuous sound? And
Right.
there had been spinner blades in the past that had been designed that were like hollowed with BBs and stuff in them, but they really didn't alleviate the issue of centrifugal force. So when that blade starts whirling around, it would hold all the BBs to one side until it
Exactly.
made contact or it was stopped or shook. And with the Thunder Rocket blade, it's got a tumbler system inside. So as it's rotating, it's just constantly kicking the BBs around, making a bunch of noise. I look like
Yeah.
John Cena over here, you know. That's
So,
really how it started with that blade,
yep.
and it's got the hollow chamber in there. So then I started thinking, where can I put this, and what is going to be the biggest impact? Where have you not seen quote unquote rattles in the fishing industry? And the first thing that came to mind was in the Thunder rig itself. And so I started off thinking, I got to do a big 5 wire chandelier rig like we all like to throw. And then I thought of all the markets that they can't even throw a 5 wire rig. And I
Yep.
thought,
We live in one.
yeah, so 3 wire could be used almost everywhere. So I was like, well, let's start with that. And it's done really well. We put the Thunder Rocket blade right in the center. That way, it doesn't even become necessarily a target for the fish. It draws them in. You've got all of your swim baits on the outside. Of course, around here, we can use 3 hooks. So all of those have hooks in them. Fish come in,
Yep.
take a look, and they're on it.
Yeah.
Um, we did a zinc alloy head. We did the whole lead-free thing. It's got a little bit of weight to it. So, I mean, you can literally go to the point of throwing these weightless on here with just a weightless swim bait hook. And, I mean, you throw it up in 2 foot of water. I fished it around
Yeah.
docks in the fall when they start staging up on the docks. They come out and smack
Yeah.
this thing. So that was the start of the Thunder rig and where it's been. And just to kind of foreshadow, you might not have seen this done yet, but this is kind of what we're evolving this towards. So we're going from the OG and we're starting to take the blade and actually incorporate it as a dummy.
Oh, nice. I have
And
not
the
seen
five,
that.
this is a 5 wire rig. This one, I don't even know what brand this one is, but we're using the actual Thunder Rocket blade as a dummy. And in some cases, we'll actually put 2 of them on there. We'll put both of our top dummy baits as the Thunder Rocket
Yeah.
blade, and then we'll hang our target bait in the middle and 2 on the bottom. And that way you're getting double the rattle, and you're still getting the 5 wire rig. You get the added blades on there, all that kind of good stuff. So you get kind of thunder and lightning. So you get the
Yeah.
flash and the sound.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the one thing I was going to ask you with putting that on there like that is how is it tracking through the water is because anybody that's caught any fish on the A rig and stuff like that, I mean, most of the time they're coming up to get it.
Right,
And so you definitely want the bottom ones to be in that center to have the hooks on it because the likelihood of them hitting that top one, it could
right,
happen. But
right,
most of the time, like that I catch, it's really on that center, the center one, anyways. But what I like about the 3 wire is, and you don't really think that it's that much difference in weight, but I can chunk that thing for days
yeah,
and not get exhausted. And anybody that's thrown the 5 wire um, is what knows that. I mean, after a while, it gets heavy, and so
right.
that the 3 wire, I really did like that because again, in Tennessee, that's all we can use is 3 anyways. So why waste 2 more baits or anything like that to have it on the 5? Yeah, it's going to make the school look bigger. But when you have the little Jesus fish on there, I was surprised to see uh, the difference that it does. And I'm going to do a video. Maybe we can get out if you're. Maybe I can go up there to Nashville, or you can come to Chattanooga, and let's get out on the boat. And I want to film with, and I'm going to put my GoPro in the water because I guarantee you. I mean, you're going to be able to hear. I want to be able to hear what it sounds like as it's tracking through, and the fish have never had that experience of seeing a bait ball that has that, one has that noise, and then two has that it's a different vibration,
Yeah.
and so they're thinking that's legit
Yeah.
instead of I've
Now,
seen that five wire all day long. I'm
and I
not gonna.
and I was going to say too, Colin. I'll add one more little bit to the equation. And you're talking about the rattles that it has in it and how the
Mhm.
rattles work. But not only the rattles, but with that, Jesus fish gives off a lot more vibration or water displacement than the typical
Yeah.
blade would give as well. So it's not only giving you the rattles, but it gives you, and in a lot of cases, that water displacement creates noise, which also attracts that fish. So the water displacement is just
Yeah.
twice, in some cases, three times the of what you're going to get with that typical blade as well. So
So we've got almost 900 people on right now. So Norman, let's ask the questions again. Of we're Wade is actually, guys, is giving doing a giveaway with us tonight. We're getting three of the Thunder rigs and five of the Thunder baits, and those things. So so the questions you got to. There's two questions, and so the first one is, who is the spinner bait king? And so far we've got quite a few answers, but nobody's gotten it yet.
yeah,
We've had Kevin Van Dam, Rick
yeah.
Clunn, but nobody's hit
Yep, and
the
Kevin Van
king
Dam,
yet.
yeah,
But
and Kevin Van Dam and Rick Klein, they're both dynamite with the spinnerbait, but unfortunately,
yeah,
they're not quite the right answer. But
no. So, but then to be, and that's to answer that one correctly, you will get the thunder bait. But then to get the thunder rig, which is what we were talking about, the A rig part.
yeah,
Norman, you want to go on and
yeah, yeah. The trivia question is who invented the first freshwater, and the keyword's freshwater, a rig,
yeah,
and
and if you can,
go
and
ahead.
I'll do this. And Norman, you probably won't have a problem with it. If you can tell us who invented the first freshwater A rig, then you'll get the Thunder rig. But if you can tell us what lake he used it on, the first lake he used it on, then we'll throw in some bruiser baits on
Yeah.
top of that.
Yep, and a little bit of
So,
backstory on it. The first freshwater A rig was invented by a FLW Touring Pro at the time. He invented it the 1 or 2 days after a day of practice, 1 or 2 days prior in his hotel room prior to day one of the event, because of what he's seeing going on with the school and fish and how they're chasing. So it was actually made in a hotel room prior to an event, and he ended up winning the event on it, and
so
and
we've got
became the A rig.
yeah. So Tim Gill says he loves the Thunder Rocket. I don't know if you know him or not, Wade, but and he says Paul Elias.
That's a really good guess.
So and then Michael Lindell says the A rig works great for peacocks in South Florida, and so but you're gonna have to keep on guessing. So Brenton, he says that because Michael also said Bill Dance. Bill Dance is good at it too at the spinner
Yeah,
bait, but it's not the answer. And so
not the answer we're looking
they're
for.
close. They
Yeah,
are right at the decade time
yeah,
period though. Um, but Brenton and Wade, you may be able to answer this because you fished all over the United States. He says, I wonder if he can use the A or the Thunder rig in Minnesota.
I'm not sure exactly what their rules are as far as like hooks go. Um, I think bait wise, I don't know that there's an issue throwing it as long as if they're like a one hook state, they could do the bottom as their target
Yeah.
bait and then maybe do the tops as dummies. I mean,
Right.
that's a
Yeah.
possibility.
I mean, because there's nothing saying that you can't throw something. I mean, it's the problem of it is, Brent, is that how many hooks you can have on there, and which to me is crazy. And I want to hear your opinion on it too, Wade, because my thing is you're throwing a jerk bait and you got 9 hooks that's coming at them things, and so exactly. Right. So you're gonna tell me which one's gonna put more holes in a fish, and because usually on a jerk bait, I'll have half of the one. I'll have one good hook in the side of the mouth, and then the other half is sticking right in. Yeah. And
Right.
so I'm like, what's really putting more holes in them? I mean, you're
Yeah.
worried about an A rig, and but another thing is on that A rig is catching doubles on that A rig is well
Oh
catching
yeah.
doubles on any kind of A rig is fun, but I think my biggest doubles that I've had on your A rig was been I think I had a 4.5 and then I had a one just you say 5 pounds, but it was just a smidge over 5, but that's not too bad for one hook set that you have 9 pounds in the box. So, but let's see. Jeff says 9 hooks is practically cheating. Well, Jeff, tell Kevin Van Dam that he made a living off of them 9 hooks.
Hey,
So,
hey, hey,
uh,
hey, Colin, your personal best is 10 too. If you went out with Wade's A rig and caught
if I
a
would have
5.4
had,
and a 5.8, does that mean you have
I
your
guarantee
new
you that
personal
Jay,
best?
yeah, yeah. Well, that consider. Wait, how does that work? I mean,
Well,
if
that
I
would
catch
consider
one that's if I get 11 pounds on one bait, I mean, I could say I caught 11 pounds, right?
is that now your new personal best over your
I don't know if you would call it an 11 pounder. I mean,
Oh man,
in the kayak world, you could add up all that length and it would be good.
10?
yeah,
You could say
yeah,
you could say you caught like a 60-inch fish.
yeah. So just put them nose to tail and just
There you go. I caught 60 inches in one cast. I think you're a musky
hey,
fisherman.
Uh,
beat that, guys. So let's see. I wonder. Copper Red Baits is Jared Sullivan, which he's here local to us. I don't know if you
Hmm.
know him or not, Wade, but he's got some killer frogs. Um,
Absolutely.
and
I just kind of teamed up with Copper Reds this year. I'm going to
oh,
be.
nice.
I started kind of playing around. That's why he was talking about this jerk bait right here. That's his Jonah
Yep.
117 jerk bait, and this olive color. I was throwing this up at Lake of the Ozarks and popping a lot of fish on it, but I kind of fell in love with these. They're a slow sink jerk bait. I put a little bit bigger hook on them so they'll sink a little faster. And for anybody that plays around with the scope at all, that's a really nice feature to have. But yeah, just kind of throwing a little plug out for him. He's
Yeah.
going from that jerkbait last year. He's got this brand new snatch and shad
And
coming out
that's what
this
I was
year.
about to say. I've seen some, and I got to get some of those in my hands, and because it is definitely that time right now to be throwing those.
hey,
So
Colin,
I
real
don't
quick.
know if it's Jared or if it is his wife. I'm pretty sure it's probably Jared, but she will comment also. So whichever Sullivan that it is, um, it said he said. So did Andy Poss invent the freshwater A rig? So and then Michael Lindell says Bill Dance and Andy Poss. Um,
Hey, Colin, real quick, not to cut you off though. We had one right answer so far that I've seen. Are you writing them down as they're going through, so you don't have to scroll back all through all the answers at the end to find answers?
uh, no, but I can.
Yeah,
So and
I was gonna say
so
you see more questions than I see. I see what's on this, but you see them
yeah.
on all platforms. So I'd be
He
yeah.
said we're watching both. So I told you, Wade, we get squirreled real easy, and
Hey, it's all
so
good.
and so um, so I gotta get a clean piece of paper.
Yeah, and
Look,
if you're just trying to go back a little ways because I seen a right answer. It's already popped off my screen now.
Yeah.
so
Um,
you were talking
hey
about this.
Norman,
Yeah.
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Norman, write down who that was so I can make sure that I can that
Oh
I'll have
boy.
that
All
you
right.
see on that end.
Yeah.
And so, um,
You were
go
talking
ahead,
about
Wade. Sorry.
the Thunder rig being castable and not wear you out, and this was something that I didn't even think of because honestly, I've been in a kayak twice. And not to put anything against kayak guys because that's a whole nother world. I mean, that's awesome. I got a lot of buddies that kayak fish. It's always fun seeing them ride in the passenger seat of my boat and go, "This is the fastest kayak I've ever been in." But the one thing that they pointed out to me, I went down to ICAST a few years ago when we released this, and of course my
I
booth was
remember
right
that.
across from Hobie Kayaks, and Ike and Ellie and all the guys that were over at the booth, they walked over, they were looking at this, and they pointed somehow. They said, "This rig isn't going to pull them through the water." With the big rigs, when they throw them on a kayak and they start reeling it in, it'll pull the kayak to the rig because it resists with so much water. Where this one's a little more streamlined and they don't have to fight it as bad. So, just a little side note on that.
Yeah, and I'm like with you. I've never I've not I can't say I've never fished. I had fishing kayaks. I've never thrown an A rig in the fishing kayak, but I can see. I mean, just because like what I was saying, throwing the 5 wire all day long, chunking and winding it, it is exhausting, and I can see to where it will pull a kayak. That I mean, and that I can definitely see how it could would not benefit to have a 5 wire throwing on a uh let's see. Old Jerry is on here. He said, "What do you mean by you get squirreled?" When I say we get squirreled, is
We are
we'll
going down
start
a
on a
rabbit hole.
subject and then we see something flashy in the corner and then we go to that and then we may
We're
or may not come back to the
we're we're,
subject that we're talking about.
we're easily distracted, Jerry.
Yes. Um, so, but yes. Um, I don't know what I was. So many questions coming up or comments. So I want to talk though about kind of go into the thunder bait
Mm-hmm.
because it's kind of the same principle as the thunder rig. Um, the but it's just in a spinner bait form, and I think that it is it's phenomenal. I mean, it does the exact same thing as kind of like with the A rig, and I mean, it catches a bunch of fish. Especially, I love throwing it around some downfalls, some grass lines, and some docks and stuff like that. And one thing that I really like uh, about it that I'll do is when I'm throwing a spinner bait, I like to keep that spinner bait up in the water column. Especially, I want it to kind of hit that top of the water and just kind of just trickle along the top of that water. And so to where a blade just kind of goes dunk, 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 and it kind of makes like the little circles and stuff like in the water. This kind of it kind of puts off like a little wake, like a little remote control boat that you put in like the boat or into like the like your tub or whatever when you was a kid or in a pond. It puts off a little wake like that, but it keeps on spinning and it doesn't break. But you got the vibration, then you got the beads that's in it. I think that that was a great move on that on your behalf of making it into a spinner bait.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think my thought on this was everybody that's ever bass fished has thrown a spinnerbait at some point in time. Tide one on, chuck it, wind it. You can throw it about anywhere. And I live up here on Old Hickory. I mean, it's old stickery for a reason. It's a lot of trash fishing, a couple foot of water, and just junk everywhere. So
If
throwing
you
this,
don't, if you go to
you,
Old Hickory and you do not hit any logs in the river, you're not on Old Hickory.
yeah, you, amen at the end of that day. So this, you think a chatterbait's great around grass. A square bill is good around rock, sometimes wood. And, rather than having a whole bunch of rods on the deck, you got a bait that sounds like a crankbait, but it's, ATV versatile. It's got a little bit of the bladed jig kind of look, but, it gives you the versatility and the fishability of a spinner bait. So you
Yeah,
kind of combine all them elements and you got one bait you can throw really anywhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I guarantee you. I mean, because right now I see we've got a bunch of Florida guys in right now, and I mean, some of these guys, or I'd say not some, a lot of these guys, most of them are pure hammers, and so I think that which one of them has already answered a correct answer. So um, we will. He will be getting one of them. Jerry says Florida here. We know you're here. I see all the comments, Jerry, that you're doing. And he wanted me to reenact how the blade goes again when I was talking about keeping it on top of the water. But Jerry, he is a good friend of ours, and when I talk about a hammer, he is a hammer. And
Jerry's a hammer, but he has a grandson that I think is starting to outshine Jerry there, and
I,
making Jerry even
he's
that more than he is.
I think that as long as Hunter keeps on wanting to fish and be able to
Yeah,
improve and listen, he's going to be a mess to be reckoned with.
yeah.
And so, but so with those baits, I know that we had talked before, um, and you said that you may be having something come else in the Thunder Rockets bait lineup. Um, do you have something that that you can talk about that maybe, and if not, we can just go to something else.
Well, we've got plan B, C, D, E, all kinds of ideas. Obviously, they take time to develop and everything else. Um, I'll throw it out there because we did kind of like a little bit of a test run of this bait, and I was literally just hand making them to kind of put a test market out there. And you mentioned Ryan earlier. Ryan got a hold of one, and within like 2 days, I think he won big fish back to back out of Chickamauga. I had one that was like nine
Yeah,
pounds
yeah,
on a Thunder Buzz. And what we did is we incorporated a Thunder Rocket blade in line behind the Buzz blade, which it adds a bunch of cool effects. Not only was he doing well on it, Richard Cooper was out fishing NPFL on Eufaula, caught a giant on it that week. I finished top 10 in a BFL super tournament, won big fish on it. I mean, it was just like a lot of good topwater fishing going on. And it adds a cool element. It added a cool effect to the bait. It would cast a lot farther because this blade is literally like a crankbait body. So it adds casting weight, but it doesn't make the bait sink. It basically neutral body. So it makes the bait track nice and straight, adds a little more sound. You can cast a lot farther. So that's probably the direction that the next release would be in the Thunder Buzz. And then there's a million and one other ideas that we've been kind of tinkering with. So we'll just kind of see how it matures from
Yeah. So and that's the thing. There's so many different ways that you can go with that idea of it, and and just to kind of hear your thought process of when we were on the phone chit chatting, and and then like you're so acceptable of even having feedback of even saying, well, what about this? And even though either one may or may not work or work to the plan that would want it to work, um, but just the ideas and stuff that you have had, and just being on the phone and talking to you, and it's just phenomenal to kind of. I enjoy talking to people that have that creative mind, and is putting it to use on. I mean, especially in the fishing world, because I mean, we live, breathe, we can talk for hours and stuff on fishing, and but then to kind of hear what people's thinking and mindset is on trying to kind. I mean, because everybody has a Cinco. I mean, and do you want to have the same kind of bait that 100 million other companies have, or do you want to kind of reinvent the wheel and kind of bring something out that fish have never seen? And that's what you've done with the Thunder Rockets. You kind of reinvented the wheel, because again, no fish has ever heard the rattle in an A rig or in the spinner bait, and so that has to me, and I have gotten. I mean, I've used it. Norman's used it, and I mean, we've gotten hits and got caught fish, and I mean, I really enjoy it. I think it's a great bait, and um, so, but Jerry has asked. He said, "It's a serious question." I got to
Hey,
go scroll back up to it.
Colin, real quick, I'm going to answer that question for Jerry. Serious question. Jerry is asking, what is considered a trophy fish on Old Hickory? Well, I'll give you a serious answer, Jerry. 2 pounds. I fished. I
Hey,
fished.
Jerry,
I fished
I will
one.
say
I fished one event on
you
Old
just don't know
Hickory,
how to fish, Norman.
and,
You don't know
two,
how to fish.
2 pounds
You
is a
should
big
be
fish
able.
out there.
I grew up on Jerry. I grew up on Old Hickory, and I feel like I can go to Old Hickory anytime, and I can go and catch 25 to 30
Two
bass.
2 pounders.
I mean, you're going to catch the 2 pounders. That it just seems like that's what it is. But they're. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wade. I mean, there has been a 10 pounder caught out of there. I think that it's been transplanted, but there was a 10 pounder caught on Old Hickory. Uh,
Yes.
there are decent fish on there. It's just a matter of there. A lot of people on Old Hickory, when I go out there and I see them fishing, you see them beating the bank more than any other lake. How I feel. Instead of like when, like on old or on Chickamauga, you have to stand in line and take a ticket to get on the ledges to be able to ledge fish. There's so many people out on the ledge, and I think if they implement that on Old Hickory, they're gonna the quality fish is going to be there. I've done it. The last time I went, um, I mean, I pulled out a couple fives and a six out of Old Hickory just doing some ledge fishing, Jerry. So Norman Norman's just used to that Florida when he fished it, and he just flew right past all the good spots. Is what I will say.
That one ten
So
pounder that one 10 pounder that lives in Florida was probably or lives in Old Hickory is probably transplanted from Florida.
it was probably transplanted from Chickamauga, but
I emphasize the statement that one 10 pounder.
That one, yeah.
Right, but there was one. There was that one.
Yeah,
Uh,
we see an occasional 7 pounder. I've seen those in tournaments up here. 7 pounds, 7 pound range is,
yeah,
I wouldn't say
it's
common, but every year you see a couple come through like that. Probably the biggest bag I've ever seen come out of Old Hickory was in the upper 20s, like 27, 28 pounds. And it was actually Greg Hackney back in like an Everstart event back in the early 2000s. 2010, when the floods came through Nashville, it wiped out a lot of the grass out of Old Hickory and it kind of reset the fishery. And it's starting to get back there. I mean, it's taken a consistent 20-pound bag to win a local event around here. I mean, especially this spring, it's
yeah,
been just steady 20-pound bag. So it's
yeah.
coming back.
Let's see. All right. Jeff, I don't know where you're from or anything like that, but we're not anywhere close to. We're in Tennessee. Norman is from Florida, and so I know you keep on asking about saltwater. Uh, we primarily talk about freshwater fishing. I mean, 99.9%. Um, uh, if there's too many people fishing, no, I don't simply leave. I don't mind bumping boats. So I mean, if if that's where you got to go to catch fish, I don't I don't mind it. But and Jeff, there are pictures, and so it did happen. So, but thanks for your comments. But so Wade, I do. I mean, we've had you on here for 41 minutes, and we just talked about Thunder Rockets. I want to talk. You last year you was on the NPFL, and I want to talk to you about the difference because NPFL probably made the biggest change in the fishing industry and tournament series wise.
Mhm.
Um, what is your thought? And which, because I know you've sat down and you've thought about what's going to be the best path for you to stay with the NPFL or to go to the opens, and you went to the opens, and it's not the fact because you just want to use a forward facing sonar, but it was the best choice for you and your family. So, what was your thought pattern, or what do you think on the NPFL switching to no forward-facing sonar at all?
I still maintain that. I think for the NPFL and for their organization, great organization, by the way. I think it was a very bold move, but it was a great move for them for the timing because to try to separate, differentiate themselves from the other major tours, this gives them an opportunity to stand in a spotlight solely their own, not just a copycat league or anything like that. We heard all the bashing and all the haters out there. So giving them like their own identity and really kind of giving hardline baits a shake, like given the old school techniques, like we want to call them, giving that an opportunity. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna be a really cool year to watch and see how that matures. I was fully for restrictions and kind of simplifying everything from the electronic standpoint. I think there was like a there wasn't really a stopping point. It was just kept growing and growing and growing, and it was really only privy to a really small inside circle of you know getting ahead of that power curve. So I think
Yeah.
it's industry wide is great. I think the NPFL is a great organization. I really enjoyed it. I'd love to get back to that one of these years. Um, for me, some of it was financial. Um, I'm just being honest. It made more sense to go the direction of the opens into this season. At the end of the day, not indifferent whether you like them or not. That's all of everything we have in the bass fishing world, in the current bass fishing world, started with a dream of Ray Scott and
Yeah.
Bassmaster. So everything that's come since then is riding the shirt tails of what he created. So no, you can't take that away. Even if you come up with a new organization, this wouldn't just be a dream that came out of nowhere. This is all stems from that. So I actually chatted with Norman a little bit about this before we got on the podcast earlier, and I was saying how when I was in high school, I started fishing back before there was middle school, high school, college anglers, anything like that. The only I was given an opportunity to start fishing at 13 years old by getting my boater safety certificate and fishing a draw tournament league similar to the BFLs. And that was a circuit that when I was 14, I ended up winning Angler of the Year in that. But that's where my start came from. And, it all goes back to the dream. I'm watching Kevin Van Dam as a youngster coming out of Michigan, starting to make his move into the industry. And I'm thinking, man, I got a shot. I could do this too. This would be cool. And my nickname all the way through middle school, high school was Bassmaster. I pulled up one of my yearbooks and I opened it up the other day and it says right in there, like people literally, they didn't write Wade, hope you have a great life. They said Bassmaster, go catch them all. Hope you meet a pretty girl someday, all that kind of typical yearbook stuff. But they refer to me as Bassmaster. So it just seemed like a calling, a sign to me like, hey, pay homage to where, your roots came from. Give it a shot. See what you can do. I know I'm going to be the long shot dark horse out here going against the youngsters. But hey, everybody has a dream. Go out there, go after it. You got one shot. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the NPFL, I really like what I think that they are a great organization. I like the fact that on like the off days and stuff like that, that they kind of do like a community outreach type deal. Um, and I think, I mean, is it? Do you see any others doing it? No, I think that it's a good way to get to where they're able to reach out and be able to reach more people that way and get them interested in at least coming and seeing the weigh in and doing all that and getting their first look at what the NPFL is. And I think that it was I think that it was a very daring thing that they done with taking away the forward facing sonar because I didn't know. I was like, when I first seen it, I was like, they just threw that whole tournament series away because um, I was like, that's where the fishing industry is on the forward facing sonar. And then you had that happen, and then you had the Bass Pro Tour and MLF come out with what they're doing, and then I mean, as soon as I mean, it kind of just fell like in suit, just bang, bang, bang with the three big companies. Our tournament series um, is as soon as I seen Bass went and had Garmin as a title sponsor for this year, I was like, they're not getting rid of it. I was like, there's no way. You're not going to come. You're not going to bring a electronic company in that their main source of income is off of the units that's having forward facing sonar. You're not going to say, by the way, you're not going to be able to put that on your boats. But and so it comes down to money, and that's what I was thinking was because it's a business. They're there to make money, and I thought that it at first I thought that it was a kind of themselves shooting themselves in the foot because I'm like, well, that just took away Garmin, Lowrance, and Humminbird, and to be a potential sponsor for them, and but to kind of see how people still stuck with it and like let's go fish old time ways, and I thought that it may be that uh, you'll see a lot of influx from the MLF and the Bassmasters switch over there to the ones that's kind of lagging behind Forsay to switch over there. But I mean, you still have Patrick Walters over there, and he's probably one of the best with the forward facing sonar. Um, I mean, you also have John Cox that his is it's still in his back of his truck in the box that he refuses to put the thing on. It don't matter what tournament series. Um, so, um, but
Well, you're talking,
so
you're really talking two different worlds between
yeah,
no forward facing sonar and having forward facing sonar. First off, the idea that forward facing sonar just makes fish jump in the boat is an absolute farce. And I mean, I'll be the first to admit it. I went into this year on the NPFL thinking, hey, I'm still going to incorporate my shallow river fishery techniques that I'm using on Old Hickory and on Percy Priest, and I can go compete. And I could go out and catch me a 12 to 15 pound bag, but that was not putting me anywhere near touching that top. And and really what it is it's the consistency and the efficiency that it gives you with forward facing. So if it's allowed and you're not using it, you're behind the eight ball.
Oh
Like
yeah.
yeah,
it's not putting the fish in the boat, but it's letting you be more efficient to cover water faster, see what the fish are doing, react to them, and literally put more fish in the boat. And if they're that plentiful, you can literally get to the point of picking out like, hey, that's a 3 pounder. I don't need that. I need a 5 pounder bigger. So
yeah,
like you can kind of call your shots with it, and that's what's going to make you. So this year was a big like learning curve year for me. I mean, I was rooming and running with a lot of younger guys that were like diehard forward facing sonar fishermen. And I learned a ton from them. Um, but on the flip side, everybody's like, oh, NPFL, the weights are going to fall off. You know what? That's right. They might. They probably are going to fall off, but it's a different type of competition.
it
You're
is.
mano a mano. No, everybody's going to fluctuate. That 28-pound bag that I talked about coming off Old Hickory by Greg Hackney, the first day he had like 2 fish for 4 pounds in that event. The second day he dropped 28 pounds. He went from 115th place up into the top, I don't know, 10 or something like that. So that's just the idea of no forward facing sonar. You get out there and you flip, you get on the right bite. That stuff's going to happen. So you're going to
Right.
see a lot more variation. You're going to see a lot more shaking, shake-ups on the leaderboard. Not just one person got into this school and just wrote it out for day after day. So there's two parallels on the two leagues that both of them deserve their own respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I know. Let's see. Chad says it's going to be a year of all new data to collect and strategy.
Piece.
And he's correct. I mean, and I don't know if it's going to be new data on the NPFL because it's going back to old school. And you're if you've used a forward facing sonar and which we tell people all the time, the forward facing sonar has been more of a learning tool for us than really, I mean, besides going out there and smacking some crappie in the face. But it's been more of a learning tool. And I believe that even like the guys that are good at forward facing sonar and knowing the patterns and what a fish, because we've learned so much in the past 8 years of having the forward facing sonar that that's not going to go out of their mind of I don't have to go beat a bank. I can go, these fish are actually doing this. So you, as long as you can go find the fish, I still think that pattern of where they're not going to be able to hone in on one cast and throw out there to them and catch that fish. They're going to have to do they have to break down that area a little bit more than what they would with the forward facing sonar. Um, so I don't know, Chad, if you may be right, and that's just my opinion. And we know how opinions are and stuff like that. Everybody has one, so um, but you may possibly be right. The strategies, it is definitely going to change strategies on how people fish the
Yeah,
NPFL.
You're going to have to
It's
rely on, sorry, you're going to have to rely
you're
on
good.
more um, structure and cover. You're going to have
Yeah,
fish that are related to something that you can target. What it's going to eliminate is the floaters and the schoolers out in the middle of open space. That's not going to be
yeah,
accessible. And those fish have been there for as long as bass have swam in the lake. Those fish have
yeah,
always been doing that, and they're just finding those things now because forward facing makes them accessible.
yeah,
But there's no way that you could, in your right mind, go out in the middle of the lake and just fan cast when fish are suspended anywhere from 2 to 100 foot in the middle of the lake.
yeah,
So that's going to be
yeah,
eliminated by taking forward facing out. But you kind of have the old school mentality of knowing patterns and movements of the fish and seasonal migrations, and then being able to use forward facing sonar and really see what they're doing. And then
yeah,
you got the other end of, I've used forward facing sonar for years and that's what I know. And I've watched what they do. And now you're kind of learning all this new data like he's talking about, where you're kind of merging the two together. I see how they react. Now I just have to learn how they're
yeah.
moving and utilize that and visualize in my head. I've watched them on the scope. I know what they do.
yeah,
And you know, too, we kind of talked about this a little bit on last week's episode, talking about the forward facing sonar and how, in our eyes, it's kind of one of the best learning tools that they ever came out with in the fishing industry. And we kind of got into, you know, for years before forward facing sonar, you'd basically beat the bank and you were fishing everything that you could visibly see. But now that we're putting forward facing sonar and all lifetime fish finders on the front of our boats, now we're actually being able to see fish that are swimming around out in front of us off of the structure we've been fishing for years, and fish that are swimming on the lakeside or the riverside of our boats that we never even knew was there. So every time you're going down a bank prior to forward facing sonar or live fish technology, you're fishing what you could see, never before knowing that there's actually fish all around us, not only on the structure that we're actually fishing, you know, until they came out with forward facing sonar. And that's why kind of in our eyes, and you were right when you said a little bit ago that people automatically think, being that you could see them in live time, well, they're just going to jump in the boat every time you throw out and
yeah.
targeting those
But
fish.
that's people though
Absolutely.
that's never been on a boat that's
Yeah.
had it.
But if
Thinks
nothing,
that
yeah, exactly. But if
yeah,
nothing else, in my eyes at least, it is the best learning tool to be able to learn what fish are doing, how fish react to baits that we never knew prior to being able to see them in real time, in live time,
yeah,
how they react to a bait, how they chase bait, how they
yeah,
chase balls of bait. So that's one thing that I enjoy about the forward facing sonar is not necessarily going out trying to catch a fish what you should do, but learning about what things we never knew before.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so in chat,
I just explained it to a
sorry.
friend of mine the other day, and he was talking about, man, I'm really gonna have to learn this because I'm getting my tail whooped everywhere I go. And I said, don't think of it as like, oh, I see the fish, they're going to bite my bait, because
Yeah.
you're going to get frustrated real quick when you
Oh
just throw something at them and they don't eat it. I said, you got to think
yeah.
of it. I said, think of your crankbait selection. You got you got every color from shad colors to chartreuses to craw colors and bluegill colors, and then you got everything from weight baits, shallow divers, square bills, all the way down to 10XDs or whatever. Your
Yeah.
big deep divers. There's a big matrix, and you got to figure out where on that fits to catch
Yeah.
that specific fish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, for example, the jig and minnow is notorious for being the scoping bait. Well, if you got to take that one bait, you got everything from little tiny crappie size baits all the way up to big megalodon looking things. You got everything from an eighth ounce all the way up to an ounce of weight. You got to figure
yeah,
out what color, what weight, what size, how
Yeah.
to get to that fish, how to get them to react. And you got one shot per fish, basically.
Yeah.
If you get a
yeah,
second shot on a fish on forward facing sonar, that's just dumb luck. You missed it the first time. That's what happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is um, like why I say that it's a learning tool. Like you see patterns of what the fish you can see, you can track a fish, and And you can see like when they get to a certain area is when they eat. And so you know that, and all they're doing is kind of just circling around. And so, but when they get back to that one area, they're ready to eat. And so, usually, and the rest of that circle, it's not even worth you even trying to throw at. But um, another thing is like throwing a bait and you see the fish come up to it or come over and they're tracking it and you're like, I'm about to get nailed right here. And I mean, and then you get it and they don't ever bump it, don't do anything, they just follow. Then all right, you see that a couple times, and you're like, all right, maybe if I need to change something, change the color, change baits, and then you can actually kind of see what is actually attracting them and you're able to adjust on the fly a whole lot faster and learn because you're able to see, well, they're committing. Well, I'm throwing a jerk bait right now, and yeah, they're coming up, but they're not coming up fully up to it. Well, then let's go throw a little whatever. I'm changing it to a swim bait. Let's see what they do, and well, then maybe they may come all the way up to it, and then just never commit to it. Well, let's change the color. We've got them to come up because it's attracting them, and so it's been more of a learning tool for me than going out there and be like, I'm catching that one fish because it's not guaranteed. And so that's why they call it fishing, not catching.
I catch it.
And so, but Chad said some of these guys, we have never seen how they are without forward facing sonar. That is legit. We don't know. These rookies that, I mean, they've grown up. I mean, they've been fortunate enough to grow up in the time period to where they have all these electronics in their hands and they are phenomenal. You cannot, if you're going to try to go pound for pound forward facing sonar them, you better go out there and you spend thousands of hours out there looking at a screen to be able to compete with these guys. And you know what I'm talking about, Wade, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
And but just because they're good at the forward facing sonar, they're going to surprise people that they're going to be able to still catch fish.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, you we've had multiple big name legends in the bass fishing industry tell us the exact same thing. You do not get to where you're at just with one simple thing. And you have to be versatile. And these guys, all of them, when they get to the NPFL, they get to the MLF and the Bassmasters, you have to be versatile. And so I think it's going to surprise people. Uh, they may come out the gate stumbling because they're having to get used to doing that. But I think they're still hammers. So I think, Chad, though, that you are completely correct on that. Uh, we got old Ethan Jet says, "What's up, y'all?"
Hey,
What's up?
Ethan, what's
And
up?
so you may know old Ethan.
Absolutely.
So uh, let's see. Wade will put his social secret shaky head worm on to get that bite. So whatever that may be. So I do want to give you a chance. So we've had you on for an hour, and um, one of my favorite things is being able to have the person on talk about the people that has helped them to be able to do what they're doing, especially because to be a tournament fisherman in any kind of professional realm, it costs a lot of money. And so you have to have sponsors. And if you don't, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. And so I want to give this opportunity for you to talk about your sponsors. And you've got some pretty cool ones. So I'm ready to hear
Sure,
this.
sure. Well, so for the last couple of years, I'm going to give kind of a previous shout out right here because Mr. Joe Boyer of Straight Up Mounts, and a lot of y'all have got them on your boats. They're supporting your graphs. Straight Up Mounts, excellent company, excellent graph mounts. I'm still running them on my boats. Um, he's he's been my title sponsor for several years. He's kind of taken a new marketing direction with what he's doing, and I'm still running his graph mount, still support him endlessly. Great guy. If you guys need graph mounts, he's definitely one to check out. Straight Up Mounts. This year, my new wrap's going on next week. You guys will see it out there on the water. It is the Roof Store. It's actually a local roofing company that good guys.
Awesome.
Um, I believe in what they do. I'm also a contractor, so we've done a lot of work together, and great guys to partner up with. So you'll see the Roof Store boat out there, and it'll definitely stand out. It'll be easy to pick out on the water.
Heck yeah.
Um, those guys are definitely a big financial support. They're definitely helping out the cause this year. And like a lot, but unlike some, I'm a blue collar bass fisherman. I'm still a general contractor by day. I'm checking on my job sites, keeping my jobs rolling. And, by grace of God, I'm allowed to go out there and chase after these fish and chase after these dreams. So, you reel it back in a little bit closer home. Willow Springs Electric's another one of my big contractors, and they take care of me. They help me out every year. So I got to give shout out to those guys. But getting endemic and getting into the fishing world, I got all these cool fishing lure sponsors. Of course, I got my Thunder Rocket lures. Another big one is Bass Reaper Bait Company. And right before we came on, you mentioned that you met my cousin Greg. So Greg
Yeah.
Warner
Well, I
is
met them last year. Remember, you introduced me to them at the East Tennessee show last year.
that's
And
right.
so, I went over to their booth and I was like, "Where's Wade? He's supposed to be in here." And he's like, "He's out fishing the tournament." And I was like, "Is he on Clark Seal?" And
Uh,
so,
yeah, Greg. I mean, man's my cousin, and as soon as he started, getting involved with Bass Reaper years ago, I was right there. I was like, look, anything I can do to help you out, I don't want to see anything but a, family member succeed. We both
yeah,
have the love and passion for fishing. And, it just kind of grew into an even better relationship. I've penned a bunch of different designs. There's several different baits in the Bass Reaper lineup that I've designed. A couple years ago, we come out with this cool deal here. It's the Mortal Creature was a bait that I come out with, a little flip and pitching bait. It's got a cool little pinch point. You can tear it off, then it becomes a really cool like trailer for a
oh,
jig.
nice.
So I
Yeah,
just wanted to make something that was like multi-use, real simple. This year, his big cool new bait, and I got to kind of bounce ideas back and forth with him, is this cool new flipping bug called the Bishop, and it kind of came from this cool little
so
crawl.
is that ribbed body?
It is. It's a rib body. It makes it real extra flexible. It's
Yeah,
got some cool appendages that add a lot of movement to it, and it's got the same little kind of flapper arms like the Mortal Creature. So that's a
right.
really cool one. I haven't even had the chance to throw this thing on the water yet. Like that's how new it is. Pretty sure he had these at the East Tennessee show, maybe in limited form because it's brand new out of the gate.
Right.
Um, always awesome, always innovative. I'm always
Yeah.
trying to sketch out new ideas and pitch them at them. I'm like, we got to come up with a minnow bait one of these days. But
Come on.
come on, get on the program. But there's no sense in, like you said earlier, like the copycat league. Like, be innovative, come up with something new.
Yeah,
Right.
Of
yeah,
course, Jared's been on here, and yeah, you're right. I see Jared just said going to be awesome for
yeah,
punching. That is going to be an
yeah,
awesome punching bait. Both those are. Copper Reds baits. Everybody knows they're frogs. The frogs are great. I've
yeah.
been throwing them the last several years. Last year, the Jonah jerk bait come out. I love these things. They're kind of more of a junior size, maybe a 95 kind of series jerk bait, but they just
Yeah.
make a cool presentation because rather than being a suspender or a floater, they're a slow sink. So you can throw it out there and just let it slowly slide into the zone and then pop it and get it in front
Yeah.
of them fish.
Just
So for the forward facing sonar guys, this is a sleeper of a bait. I really shouldn't tell everybody that.
Well, the thing is on that, um, especially for me, I like to have that slow sinking jerk bait in colder weather, um, because it's almost like a lethargic bait, and you don't have to do when, especially when the water temps as cold as what it is right now. I think I went out the other day and it was, I think 40, 41 degrees on Chick, and but that slow sink though is just kind of like a lethargic bait. And I tell people, I was like, wintertime jerk bait is the most brutal bait that you could throw because you can eat a sandwich in between the casts. Right. I mean, because most of the time when that water's cold, they won't, it has to sit in front of their face for the longest time.
Right.
And the only thing different for me on that, it would be, I love throwing a crankbait, but I love burning a crankbait in the wintertime, and I smash some fish burning some crankbaits, and and which I've talked about it many times on here of how I retrieve it. I've actually got videos and stuff on my YouTube channel, but that slow on a jerk bait, that is so critical, especially if it floats, just like that slow drop and it's level.
Yes.
I hate seeing one to where the nose is like this and it's like it's diving,
Right.
because that's not natural. And so we actually need to get Jared on here. Jared, holler at me, and we'll make sure we get that to happen.
I mean,
So,
one
uh,
of the good things, one of the good things about it being a slow sink, the way it's set up is, if you really want it to be super neutral and you want to like have it sit there and just stop in front of their face, throw it on monofilament. Nobody throws monofilament anymore. Put it on monofilament. That line, because it floats, it will just kind of hold it there. You let it sit there for 2 minutes and then twitch it 6 inches and let it just sit there in front of the fish.
Yeah.
So, I
yeah,
mean, just throwing a little bit of knowledge out, kind of like tie in what you're talking about burning a crankbait. So everybody looks for hard spots, hard bottom, and especially in the wintertime, that's thermal heat right there. That hard bottom holds a little bit of heat, and then fish, they want to lay down there. They want to put their belly right on that. You know, I could squirrel out on this one too a bunch. It's old hickory. You're talking about fish old hickory. It's all muck and silt and everything else. Them fish get right up to 6 inches of water, mud on their belly, sun on their back. Because in the summertime they want to stay cool, so they get in that cool mud. Wintertime they want to get sitting on that hard bottom because it's warm. They don't want to lay in muck because they got to try to breathe that through their gills and everything else. So they
yeah,
sit on that hard bottom, and then you rip that crankbait through there. You're causing them to have to react. They either got to get out of the way or eat.
yeah.
So that's
Well, see,
exactly
because
what you're doing.
and I'll kind of go into a little detail because I don't want to. This isn't about me and crankbaits, but I mean, uh, when I'm or throwing a crankbait during the wintertime, like I am burning as in like 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, and I pause for 2, 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, pause, and because what's happening is because these fish do they're not burning that, the metabolism is not burning the food that they've already eaten. And so, but a bass's instinct is to hit anything that's in front. They want to get it out of their way. So the only way they can do it is eat it. And so you're burning that and you're pausing it and you're sitting that in front of their face for a few seconds and then it takes off and then they're like, let's go.
Yeah.
And I have caught on Chick. I mean, I've caught some of the biggest fish that I have caught. Yep. Even
That trap, that same thing, you burn that on top of grass. Then sunny days where they sit up on top of that grass, sun themselves, get warm,
yeah,
you burn that. I mean, I grew up in Wisconsin. I mean, there were times we would wait for the ice to leave the lake the day before the first tournament of the year. And you get out there and everybody be all bundled up in their snowmobile suits, fishing super slow. And we'd be out there in t-shirts, ripping these as fast as we could across top of grass. to get those bites. I mean, that right there, that snatch and shad that Copper Reds is coming out with. I mean, it's ready to drop here in the next couple of weeks. It's
Yeah.
an
Yeah,
awesome
yeah.
bait.
I
Some that's
seen.
cool.
Yeah,
Look at the profile of this thing, how thin it is. It almost has like a blade bait profile. It's such a tight wobble to it, and it wraps.
now does the BBs that's in it, is it does it stay um does it stay like towards the front of the bait? Because like some of them, they'll go to the back of them, and it kind of, especially after catching a few, I've had them to where I've had the BBs get stuck. Not that they're making any noise, but it just makes them run a little cockeyed. You know what I mean? It's
Right,
not. It doesn't look as true.
right.
So does it have? And Jared, you may be able to answer this too. Um, but does it keep the BBs up front?
Well, I mean, just based off the design, the back is so thinned out that
Yes, that's
the
what I
BBs
was. That's
can't
what I
really get
was.
the BBs can't really get back. The bigger BBs can't get back into that section, so they kind
Right.
of stay more in that belly to keep. I mean, you can see the belly profile on it; it's a little fatter, so they kind of
Yeah.
stay
Yeah.
more.
So yeah.
Yes,
The big. He says the big ones stay in the front. I've added a divider. The little ones can travel to the back to make a good high pitch shot. Okay,
yeah.
nice. Now, does he make a silent one?
Pretty sure it's just coming out one right now.
Okay.
I've got a kind of a handful of some prototypes I've been playing with. Some are silent, some have different size BBs, different things. Um, Everything was kind of settled upon one being the best overall that had the best
Right.
flutter.
Right.
You kill it and it has the best action. That could be something to kind of tinker with into the future.
He said yes. Yeah. He said yes.
Going to have more
So
than one. Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
yeah. Yeah.
There you
So
go.
um, and so guys, like we have right now, we have over 1,200 people watching this on 9 different platforms. So thank you so much. Um, It says
That's it
oil
right there.
field silent ones. Oh
Yes.
man, yeah, I gotta get a hold of some of those because, and
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that fishes that, um, sometimes a fish likes to have the sound of multiple BBs. Sometimes they just want that one knock, and sometimes they don't want nothing at all. And um, so it is. I'm glad to see that he's spread it out to where it's just not just the multiple BBs because
Well,
I definitely.
prime example of a silent bait was the first NPFL event last spring. We were all throwing little red crankbaits down there on Logan Martin, and Mr. Will Harkins won that event throwing a silent square bill. So,
Yeah.
really because of the pressure, I mean, Logan Martin is not that big of a lake, and there was a lot of, I mean, we got 130 boats out there going round robin on them docks and them shallow banks, and something a little bit different, a little more subtle, didn't, took the pressure off the
Yeah.
fish enough. He got the bigger bite. So,
Exactly.
there's always a little trick in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
one more thing talking about, different
10
bait.
colors. Oh, heck
10
yeah.
colors. Yes, you're right. 10 colors. Everything from shad, craws.
Yeah.
I've seen the whole spectrum already. I mean, I'm super excited.
yeah.
The chromes. Oh man, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt, but Colin, real quick. Um, let's go ahead and ask the two trivia questions one more time, and we'll
Yeah.
hold off on revealing the winners
Yeah. Because
until after we ask the last question. Right
we've
before we
already
go
got the
off
A rig. The A rig is already
live.
done, but we can still ask to have it. But
All right. So we already got
or
three
the
winners on
Thunder
it.
rig.
We already got three winners
So
on the Thunder Rig.
yeah, and we still need, I think, two more on. Yeah, two more on the Thunder bait, the
All
spinner
right.
bait.
All right. So
So
anyway, we need two more answers. Who is known in professional bass fishing as the king of the spinnerbait? So we need
yeah.
two more correct answers, and like I say, we'll give it a little bit more time after we ask Wade the last question of the evening. Then we'll go back to it and announce the winners.
And I will say this: um, You do have some baits going down to Florida, so
Excellent,
um,
excellent. Well, hey,
and well,
I got one more. I got one more bait I'm going to throw out there because I got to give a shout out to one more sponsor, and I think this is something everybody's going to love because that A rig or Thunder rig I've been showing you, that swim bait on there is called a thresher, and I'm pretty sure you guys know
that
my buddy John.
torrent
John
outdoor.
Nelson at Torrent Outdoors.
Oh yeah,
He
oh
makes
yeah.
the swim bait. That's a Thresher 4.2. He makes a bigger 6.5 version of it. He's got a
Wow.
whole
Yeah,
lineup of really cool baits. But he also makes these jig heads. They're a tungsten jig head, and this is an eighth ounce tungsten jig head. It's got a 3-aught, kind of a moderately heavy. It's not a super like flipping heavy hook, but it's a heavier hook on there. It's a 3-aught. Um, I'm not sure if it's necessarily known info, but I'm pretty sure it's a BKK hook. So I mean, it's a good quality hook. It's got a good barb. You don't lose fish, whatever else. But those baits right there, and because we've talked both sides of the spectrum, for all the scopers out there, his tungsten strike jig.
yeah.
Everybody goes to all these other tungsten brands out there. This tungsten
Can you
strike
show that
jig,
again? Oh yeah,
it's got little red eyes on it. So at
yeah,
times when the water's a little dirty, especially early in the spring like that, then fish, they're kind of hunting down stuff. That red is a good trigger. But I will show you, if you're not a fan of the red, they're very easy to pop these off and just have the chrome head left. So
Right.
for
yeah.
anybody that gets turned off by, hey, it's got a red eye on it, them red eyes don't come off easy. You gotta pull at it. But you get that, and I'm gonna break it out. Right there it is. There's
Yeah.
the infamous
Well,
juice, the Sakamata.
I now I'll tell you on his swim baits because we've had John on here,
Yes.
and we were able to kind of geek out on his baits. I tell you
There you
what
go.
he's done on his swim bait, um, to where you really in that one bait you can have like 3 or 4 different baits off of that one bait to where it's easy for you to take the paddle off and you just have it straight tail to where it's almost like a oh shoot
Like a fluke.
uh, yeah, a fluke, or even you can run it on a chatterbait to have it as the hog farmer.
Oh yeah,
Shoot,
like a spunk shad.
skunk shad. Yeah,
Yep. No, I use
and
that as a trailer on a chatterbait or a bladed jig. Honestly, the thunder buzz we were referring to earlier, the buzz baits, that's literally all I throw. I no skirt. I
yeah,
just put one of those on there, and the hook on most buzz baits comes out right about where that little dorsal fin is.
yeah,
It's just it's got a nice fat little belly profile. It's got a
yeah,
good swing to the tail. That little extra top fin on there, it's got these little like perforated lines in it where you can actually pop that off and give it like a wider kick.
Right.
So it's
yeah.
cool. It's
That's
got a lot
yeah.
of multifaceted features.
Well, and kind of to go back on the red eyes, and with seeing that, it made me think because it's about to happen for us. I'm ready to start seeing smallmouth with red eyes
Oh,
because if you don't know, smallmouth when they get red eyes, it means it's spawn time. That's one way that you can tell that they're fixing to go into spawn. They'll get red eyes, and then they'll start their spawning. So I'm ready to start seeing some smallies with some red eyes. So.
Right.
But um, Ryan Gotzi said, "Hey boys, the man, the myth, the legend, Wade Warner." So, and he said, "Wade, turn your light on." And so, because it's dark all around you, all you can see, it just looks like we just took like the whole black. You just see yourself. That's all it is.
Very
So,
angelic, right?
and he said to give him a call. So, whenever you get a chance. Um, Brenton says, I love the red eyes. I need the shiny blue with the red eye jig. Um, yes. And I got another question. I mean, because you fish all year round, does it to you when you're throwing crankbaits? does it to you? Does it matter if during the winter time, because summertime you kind of want to have that little flash and have the shine on the crankbaits?
Hmm.
Um, but in the wintertime, do you like having a shiny crankbait or do you kind of prefer like a dull finish on it?
I know that
Or
there's,
have you
I
even
know,
thought about that?
yeah, I know in the fall of the year, that's really a big thing, like the duller, like spinner blades and the duller trap, taking the chrome and rubbing it down on a trap or whatever to
Right.
get those mutant finishes. In the winter, the biggest thing for me is the fish have got to see it. If you catch
Yeah.
them fish out of that ice cold water, 9 times out of 10, they're all milky white looking. Their eyes are kind of glassed over. I really feel like they're having a hard time seeing. I don't necessarily think
Yeah.
that a bait necessarily means that it's a craw. I think it's the most easily visible bait, and they're hungry. So if
Right.
it moves like a bait and looks similar to bait, they're going to eat it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, see, because and I like asking people that because my opinion, like I've been in Chattanooga for 25 years. Been on Chick the whole time since the whole, and I fished my whole life. Um, but I've realized like the bait during the winter time has it does not have that shine to them. They are kind of a duller looking color, and that's the reason why I ask. Um, and which probably like down in Florida to where they don't really get affected as much as like what we do, or even up north to where they may not even see that the bait changes colors from where it's kind of a shiny during the summertime during when it's, and I think it's more or less around, it starts happening around like 50 to 55 degrees is when I usually will start seeing that they kind of start going to a dull look. And I don't know. I mean, it may just be me that I'm kind of looking for something, trying to, everybody's trying to get an edge on something,
Right.
and so during the winter, I will take something, and I will scuff up my crankbaits or something like that to try to, or even the blades on my spinner baits, just to kind of make that dull finish on it because of what I've seen.
Right. Yeah,
So
I'm typically not throwing flash per se in the
right,
wintertime.
right,
I mean, nine
yeah,
times out of 10, from a crankbait standpoint, if it's down below 50 degrees, I'm probably throwing red anyways, or some variation of
correct,
that. I'll be throwing red or a craw color. Give me a shad wrap, give me a fritz side, give me even a trap. Usually everything is red.
right. So I mean, you can't go wrong with red, especially right now.
Exactly.
But there was something else I had. I had another question. I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to kill some time to to see if I can find a question on here. Um, Brenton, you that answer is not correct. Um, but we have had another one, so we got one more of the
We need
thunder
one.
bait to
We need
go.
one. We
So
need one more correct
uh,
answer.
yeah. So and Norman, real quick, will you give that question again while I'm trying to?
Yep.
Uh,
Yep. We need one more correct answer. We want to know who is known in professional bass fishing as the spinner bait king.
yeah. And if you kind of go through the question, and I'm surprised.
And and
I mean,
and and I'll give a hint too. He has been on the podcast before.
has been on, and uh, no, Pappy, it is not KVD. So,
Good
um,
answer, but yeah,
and
not
it
Kevin.
is. And I'll do this. Let's kind of make this kind of go quick. He is a Sooner fan. If
Yeah,
that if that
that's a good one right there.
that should kind of give
He's a
people an
he,
idea. If you know,
he's a Sooner fan and he has a pet deer.
has many,
Many pet
many.
peeves.
So, I mean, because if Wade's going to give this stuff out for a giveaway, we're going to give every single one of them out. So, but and I'll tell you this, guys, you will. If you don't, if you're not one of the guys that's getting it, you do need to go check him out, um, and get you a couple of them. I know that around here and even in Nashville area that they're in the bait shops and stuff. Um, I don't know how far out, like where is it? Just in the Tennessee area that you have them in the bait shops, Wade?
And,
There,
and could people go online if they're not in the areas where the bait shops are? Could people go online, or how could people look you up to get the baits? And also, let everybody know too what your social media platforms are, so people could go follow the bait company and follow you as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Primarily, I use Facebook. I get a little bit of Instagram. We're working on being more proactive with our YouTube and getting more stuff put on there, but primarily Facebook as far as social media platform. And then my website, wadewernerfishing.com. All my sponsors are on there. All these products from Thunder Rocket, Bass Reaper, Torn Outdoors, Copper Reds, all of them. There's links right on there. If there's any kind of like discount code associated with my name to them, it's listed right on there. You can click on the link, go right to them, and everything is tied together. So, Vexen fishing rods, I mean, that's another one. Check them out. All these products are on my site. It's easy to find. You can learn all about me, see my schedule. I mean, if you want to look at a bunch of pictures of me catching fish, whatever. It's all good. Like, even these Smith Optic eyewear, I mean, all that stuff is listed on there. You can find all in one place,
Yeah.
wadewernerfishing.com.
That's cool.
Yeah. And what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to put his social media links and his personal website in the description, and so we're gonna make it easy for you. So all you have to do is just down in the description, just click on which one ever you want. Make sure you go and follow and subscribe and stuff. It helps them out. And but we still need one more, one more. And I mean, Norman gave a pretty big one. I mean, if you watch. Um,
In
if you
2000,
watch,
here you go. Just basically go back on our episodes real quick. You could Google it, but he was our first guest, 2024, our
never
first
mind.
guest in
We
January.
got it.
We got it.
We got it.
We got it.
About time.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
So, all right. So we gave away all the baits. It just took an hour and a half, but there's probably my phone was blowing up. It was just and it there. If KVD would have been the first one or Rick Clun, we would have had it done within like the first five.
Yeah.
But it
And
so
don't get us wrong. Kevin and Rick Clun are probably what are the OGs as well. But the man actually that we were looking for is the original OG of spinnerbait fishing.
yeah. So um man, Wade, we need to get out on the boat. If it's either
Absolutely.
Chick, Old Hickory, I don't care where it's at, Gunnersville. We'll we'll make a trip. It don't matter. And I definitely because I want to do some filming and stuff because I think it would be cool, a cool video, especially to be able to have it underwater
Yeah.
of the thunder rockets coming through the water so people can hear because it's one thing to have us talk about what it is but when they can see what it does and I think it'll make a big difference and
Oh yeah.
so I'm excited about doing that. We need to have us get out on the water somewhere. Are you coming to Chick anytime soon?
Uh, I got a little thing out on Center Hill this weekend, and then I'm headed to Sam Rayburn for the first Bassmaster Open of the year. So the next
Yeah.
few weeks, that's kind of where I'll be. After that, I might have a small window opportunity. In fact, we might be able to do kind of a collaborative effort and get Jared out there, and we can throw some
Yeah,
copper red plates at the same time.
yeah,
So
that's true.
we'll definitely
And
figure.
yes, we definitely will. So I thought the Bass Opens was on Clark's Hill. The first one was on
So
Clark's Hill.
the way they revamped the schedule this year is they have a Division One and Division Two. So Division
Okay.
One started on Clark's Hill last week. I'm fishing Division Two, which is Rayburn, Kentucky Lake, Norfolk, and Leech Lake. So
Yeah.
Rayburn in 2 weeks, and then we got like a 2 week break. Then we're on Kentucky, and then a couple weeks break at the Classic, and then we go out to Norfolk. So I'm gonna be fishing a bunch of opens real fast. A lot of
Yeah.
running around, and then we got a long break. We don't go to Leech Lake till August.
Wow.
So
Goodness gracious. So, well, I want to say thank you to everybody that has stuck around for an hour and a half. I mean, we're at 1,300, over 1,300 people on here. It's just crazy to how people are just as crazy as we are, Wade, and want to just hear just people talk about fishing and go down rabbit holes. And it has been fun, and we deeply appreciate that you've come on and talk. Um, I know there's other things that we had talked about that we wanted to talk on the phone and stuff that we wanted to hit during this podcast. But I'm kind of drawing a blank. I'm tired. I was up.
Well,
I had to
you know
go
what,
into work last night.
you know what that means. That
Um,
just gives us an excuse to get Wade back on here to finish up the conversation.
there we
yeah,
go.
for sure. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much. We cannot thank y'all enough because if it wasn't for y'all, we could not be doing what we're doing. And y'all have helped out so much with just watching, subscribing, and blowing up the podcast like y'all have. And last year was a phenomenal year, and I'm excited
Yeah,
to see what we can do this year. But we do have one last question that we ask everybody that comes on, so we're not going to leave you out, Wade. And Norman, take it away, brother.
that's right, Colin. But first off, make sure to tune back in next Thursday, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another awesome episode. Next week, we will be joined by Elite Series Pro Jacob Prosnovic. Will be joining the show next week, and next week's show is going to be sponsored by YOLO Tech. Always be recording with YOLO Tech. But anyway, Wade, if you were to have one person on your boat that you could fish with for the day, and this person could be passed away or still with us, who would that person be that you would want to fish with for the day, and why would you want to have them on the boat to fish with them?
Man, you had to hit me in the feels. I I would easily give that to my dad
Yeah,
because the reason why I do what I do is because he got me into this many years
right.
ago.
That is true.
And unfortunately, he passed away about 8 years ago. And so I'm still carrying the torch. And I'm actually Wade the second. So there's been a Wade Warner that paved this way long before I started hitting the tournament trail.
Right.
So definitely my inspiration, definitely the guy that if I had
Uh,
the one opportunity, that would be it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
and that is awesome. I mean, and that question can lead to so many different answers. There's no wrong answers, and I mean because from person to person, it that question hits different. Some people want to try to go with a pro angler, but I guarantee you, Wade, 90 to 95% of everybody says somebody that's in their family, and we like to. Sometimes we will tell the whoever we have about it. And what's up, John? John Nelson is on,
There he is.
and
Right on.
but sometimes we'll tell the anglers that or who we have coming on, we'll tell them like, hey, this is our last question for you to kind of think about it. But then sometimes we just like to not say nothing at all about it, and because we like to kind of, to get the raw emotion of, because then like how you did it. You kind of, and then you knew that that was really a heartfelt, sincere. I knew where you was going with it when you done that, and that you just wasn't going to give. Well, I want to fish with Rick Clun or whatever. I knew that this was going to be a sincere. Uh, John, you just missed us talking about your baits for about 5 to 10 minutes. So, so, uh, but we did talk about them. But guys,
Hey,
thank you again.
anybody in Middle Tennessee, stop out, see John this weekend at the fishing expo in Lebanon.
Yep,
A
and
lot of
I'm
you
going to
guys
be
be out there.
there. I will
Yeah.
be there as well on Saturday in the uh, Joe Burns Rods booth. I don't know where it's probably going to be exactly about where it was back where the boats and stuff were last year. So, but I'm definitely going to go chit chat with old John for a little bit.
Yeah.
And, but guys, thank you so much.
And real quick
Go
before
wet a line.
yeah,
Just
before we
because
go
it's
off,
cold, don't mean you can't catch no fish.
yeah,
Go
before we
enjoy
go
it.
off, let's announce the winners or the right answers.
Um, I don't know if you want to do that or if you want to. Um, if you want to just message them, because it'd be a
Well,
whole
yeah,
lot easier just to
yeah,
message them. We're
we'll
going
just
to message the winners
yeah,
so
but
we can get your
yeah,
address. That's going to be a whole lot easier.
that'll work. But
And so,
let's go ahead and basically say who the right answers were, and if you were one that came up with the right answer, the first ones to actually answer the
yeah.
correct answer, we will message you. But anyway, who was who in professional bass fishing is known as the spinnerbait king? And you want to take that one away, Colin?
Yep. The one, the only, the who, if he's in a room that you don't have to be around him, you hear that laugh and you know that he is there, Mr. Jimmy Houston.
Yep. And the inventor of the first freshwater A rig is the man himself, Mr. Paul Elias.
Yep. So, um, so guys, I will be sending a message here probably tomorrow to everybody to get their addresses. Some of the guys I've already, I think I know, well, one of them, I know I've got the address to one of them.
Yep.
And so um, I will, I won't message you. I'll just text you, say you got some baits. And
Yep.
so, Jerry, thank you so much. And everybody, again, thank you
Yep.
for coming on. We're going to get off here. Fat Boy's hungry, like as usual. And I got to get
You're
something to
you're
eat
always
and
hungry.
go to bed. So, Wade, thank you again so much. We got to
Yeah.
do this again. And maybe next time we come on, we'll have, maybe we can get you and John to kind of tag team up on it. And
Yep.
we'll do it'd be nice to do something with you and John. So, but Jared, make sure you holler at us and or holler at me, and we'll try to fit you in here as soon as possible, brother. But guys, we're getting out of here. Hope you live the passion. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you next week, guys.
See ya.
Thanks, y'all.